The greatest army the world had ever seen crossed from Asia into Europe, not for conquest, not for exploration, but for vengeance.
This is the story of Xerxes and the invasion that shook the ancient world.
The Rise and Fall of the Persian Empire, Part 10. Xerxes I and the Invasion of Greece. Chapter 1. The Son of Kings. Xerxes I was not simply a ruler. He was legacy incarnate. Grandson of Cyrus the Great, son of Darius the Builder. From his earliest days, he was taught one truth. Persia does not forget. Persia does not forgive. When he ascended the throne in 486 BCE, he inherited a wounded empire, stained by the humiliation at Marathon. And he vowed that Greece would not simply be punished, it would be crushed. Chapter 2. Preparing the Storm. Xerxes summoned the satraps. From India to Ethiopia, from Babylon to Egypt, they came. Every corner of the empire answered the call. The preparations took years. Roads were widened, canals were dug, bridges were built. Nothing would be left to chance. Not this time. When Xerxes marched, he would not march alone. He would march with an army of nations. Chapter 3. The Crossing of the Hellespont. To reach Greece, Xerxes faced a challenge no army had ever solved. The crossing of the Hellespont, the narrow strait between Asia and Europe. He ordered 2 great pontoon bridges built using hundreds of ships lashed together, side by side, planked over with wood and covered in earth. But the first attempt failed. A storm tore the bridges apart. In fury, Xerxes ordered the waters whipped, chains thrown into the sea. And then he rebuilt, bigger, stronger, unbreakable. And so, the greatest army the world had ever seen walked across the sea. Chapter 4. The Fury of a King.
Thus says Xerxes the king, by the will of Ahura Mazda, I am king over many nations, and all obey my command.
The sea had dared to resist him. The winds had dared to mock him. But in the end, nature itself bowed before the King of Kings. When the second bridge was completed, Xerxes crossed the Hellespont at the head of his army, a march of vengeance now unstoppable. The earth shook beneath his will. Chapter 5. An Army of Nations. Herodotus said they numbered over 2 million. Modern historians doubt that. But what matters is this. It was a force unseen in scale or diversity. Medes in crimson robes, Egyptians with shields of cowhide, Indians armed with bows of cane, Ethiopians with painted bodies and spears tipped with stone. The army of Xerxes was not just Persian. It was the world, marching as one. And at its head rode the King of Kings. Chapter 6. The Logistics of Conquest. Feeding an army of this size was a campaign in itself. Thousands of supply wagons, mobile kitchens, floating grain ships sailing alongside the march. Every river crossed, every city passed, everything bent to the empire's will. For the Persian army, even standing still was a miracle of organization. Marching forward, that was an act of divine will. Chapter 7. Xerxes weeps.
I weep, for in 100 years, none of these men shall be alive.
In that moment, the King of Kings, master of 100 nations, saw not glory, but mortality. He wept for the countless lives he commanded.
He wept for the passing of time.
Because even the greatest empire, even the mightiest army, could not conquer death itself. And yet, onward he marched. Chapter 8. A moment of stillness. For a single night, the army of nations camped on the shores of Europe. Fires lit the hills, like constellations brought to earth. The scent of oil and horse sweat filled the air. The soldiers sang songs of home, sharpened blades in the flickering dark. In the silence between songs, a tension hung heavy over the plain. When the dawn broke, the world itself would change. Chapter 9. Toward Destiny. With the crossing complete, Xerxes marched west, into Thrace, into Macedonia, towards the heart of Greece. The cities of Hellas had heard rumors, seen the dust rising over distant hills. But now they knew the storm was no longer coming. The storm had arrived. This march has only begun. In the next episode, Thermopylae, a narrow pass, a doomed stand, and the most famous last stand in history. Step into history. Witness the next episode, only on Tales Lost in Time.